Week 7. Social groups and power. Social stratification, simply put, is the way society ranks individuals or groups in a hierarchy, often based on things like wealth, education, or social status. When mastering an instrument, the education one can afford becomes, well, the overture to opportunity. Much like formal training shapes a violinist's place within the symphony, access to elite schools defines who ascends within the social arrangement, reinforcing social class stratification as Marx described back in 1867. These institutions serve as both primary and secondary agents of socialization. An agent of socialization is basically any individual, group, or institution that helps us learn the norms, values, and roles of our society. They transmit not only technical skill, but also cultural capital, which is a set of knowledge, skills, and other cultural assets that help people succeed, plus discipline and expectations that shape one's social identity and trajectory, as Bourdieu pointed out in 1984. In this orchestral society, metaphor becomes method. If we view society as a symphony, it really foregrounds how framing, who is seen as a soloist, who remains in the background, shapes perception itself, as Pastor and Spivey have both noted. Just as certain musicians are born into access to prestigious conservatories, others face systemic dissonance. That means there are barriers that mute potential and limit social mobility. These barriers aren't just economic, they are ideological, embedded in processes of normalization that define which talents are recognized and which are silenced, as Carolan and Veli Veronen have discussed. Groups form sections, woodwinds, strings, brass, each with distinct expectations and roles. These collectives act as agents of socialization, shaping behavior through shared tempo and cues. The rhythm of group norms signals when to play loudly, when to rest, and when to harmonize, according to Collins. These internalized patterns reflect feedback loops, where individual behavior reinforces collective expectations and vice versa, as Condorelli points out. Social networks, like informal chamber ensembles, dictate who gets invited to perform on the grandest stages. These networks transmit opportunity through mentorships, introductions, and gatekeeping, reinforcing or challenging existing hierarchies, as Granovetter explains. And then there's power, not always held by the most skilled musician, but by those who write the music, choose the repertoire, or fund the performance, as Weber suggested back in 1922. Authority, embodied in the conductor's baton or an admissions committee's rubric, sets the tempo and defines success. These gatekeepers are also agents of socialization, shaping what is recognized as excellence and whose voice is amplified, as Foucault pointed out. The observer effect reminds us that what is seen and heard really depends on who is watching and from where, according to Van Langenhove. Meanwhile, entanglement suggests that no performance is isolated. Each note resonates across social ties, institutions, and histories. Finally, the system itself behaves as an adaptive system, evolving in response to internal tensions and external pressures. Just as ecosystems shift with climate, so too do social arrangements respond to resistance, innovation, and critique, as Carolan described. Yet even in adaptation, ideology persists, often disguised as tradition or excellence, until reframed by new metaphors and new listeners.
So, let's think about some guiding questions here. What role do groups play in shaping identity? How do social networks influence behavior? And, how does authority shape social interactions? Also, how do institutes implement power and, how does this affect social behavior? Karl Marx, who was born on the 5th of May, 1818, and passed away on the 14th of March, 1883, was a German philosopher, political theorist, economist, journalist, and revolutionary socialist. He's best known for the 1848 pamphlet The Communist Manifesto, which he wrote with Friedrich Engels, and his 3-volume work Das Kapital, published between 1867 and 1894. This work is a critique of classical political economy and uses his theory of historical materialism to analyze capitalism, really representing the culmination of his life's work. Marx's ideas, and the ways they've been developed since, are collectively known as Marxism, and honestly, they've had an enormous influence. Groups are, well, a collection of individuals who interact and share a sense of identity or purpose. These groups can be primary, which means close and personal relationships, or secondary, which are more formal and goal-oriented associations, as described by Cooley back in 1909. So, social networks are basically the web of relationships that connect individuals, and, they really influence opportunities, behavior, and access to resources. Social networks shape social mobility and, at the same time, reinforce existing hierarchies, as Granovetter pointed out back in 1973. Power is, well, the ability to influence or control others, and it's often exercised through institutions, economic structures, or, interpersonal relationships. Power can be coercive, meaning force-based, or legitimate, which is more about authority, as Weber described in 1922. Authority is, in essence, the recognized right to exercise power, and it's often legitimized through tradition, law, or expertise. Authority can take different forms. It can be traditional, which is hereditary, charismatic, meaning personality-driven, or legal rational, which is more institutional, as Weber explained in 1922. So, an agent of socialization is, well, basically any individual, group, or institution that influences a person's development by transmitting cultural norms, values, beliefs, and behaviors. These agents, guide individuals in learning the expectations of their social roles and help them integrate into society. Key agents include family, peers, schools, media, religion, and state institutions. Each of these plays a distinct role across the life course, shaping identity, worldview, and behavior. It's important to remember that agents of socialization aren't ideologically neutral. They often reproduce dominant power structures and cultural narratives, which, in turn, contribute to the maintenance or contestation of social inequality. The purpose here is to analyze how educational structures dictate opportunity and reinforce societal divides, just as musical training shapes an orchestra's hierarchy. The film reference we're looking at is The Holdovers from 2023. In The Holdovers, an elite boarding school serves as a microcosm for economic class and privilege, educational institutions, and social mobility, really exposing the stark contrast between privilege and struggle. The film illustrates how institutions dictate mobility, shaping futures based on access to education. Much like a carefully composed arrangement, societal structures regulate advancement, ensuring that certain individuals ascend while others remain, constrained. At its core, the film explores how educational institutions act as gatekeepers, determining students' trajectories based on socio-economic status. Barton Academy, with its rigorous academic structure and elite student body, represents institutional privilege, where wealth secures opportunities while financial instability creates barriers. This really reinforces the idea that success is not purely meritocratic, but, deeply influenced by inherited advantages. The theme of economic class and privilege is central to the film's character dynamics. The contrast between Angus, a working-class student struggling to fit into Barton's elite culture, and the absent wealthy students highlights the imbalance of opportunity. His relationship with authority and the favoritism embedded in the school's traditions reflect the broader reality that institutions shape individuals into predefined roles rather than fostering genuine equity. the film's portrayal of social mobility carries significant thematic weight. Angus, despite his intelligence, finds himself constrained by circumstances beyond his control, reinforcing that mobility is dictated not just by personal ambition, but by institutional barriers. The absence of wealthy students during winter break underscores how privilege dictates opportunity. Those with financial security navigate adolescence with assurance, while those without must struggle for every step forward. Ultimately, The Holdovers challenges audiences to recognize that education, class, and privilege function like a structured symphony, dictating who thrives and who remains constrained under a system designed to maintain hierarchy. So, groups provide individuals with identity, shared values, and social support, shaping behavior through collective norms and interactions, as Collins points out. They influence personal development, societal belonging, and cultural expression. Social networks connect individuals, facilitating access to resources, information, and opportunities, while also reinforcing existing social structures and hierarchies, according to Granovetter. They play a critical role in mobility and, honestly, influence within communities. So, power is basically the ability to control or influence others, and it's exercised through institutions, economics, and even our everyday relationships. Often it kind of dictates who gets access to resources and, social status, as Weber pointed out back in 1922. Power can be coercive, or it might be legitimized through the norms that society accepts. Authority, on the other hand, legitimizes power by establishing governance through things like tradition, law, or expertise. This really shapes how institutions control and organize society, as Foucault discussed. Authority dictates who takes on leadership roles and helps maintain order within structured systems. No musician performs alone. Collaboration is key. Just like an orchestra relies on the interplay of instruments to create harmony, individuals function within groups that shape identity and social mobility, as Collins explained. Each musician's role, much like social position, is dictated by race, ethnicity, and social class, which influences access to opportunity and reinforces societal expectations, according to Omi and Wynant, and even Marx way back in 1867. The conductor, standing at the helm, represents authority, legitimizing power through tradition, control, and institutional backing, as Foucault points out. Just as some musicians command the stage while others remain in the background, systemic structures regulate influence, amplifying some voices while, silencing others. Gender, too, shapes how structure and movement exist within these dynamics. Social networks serve as pathways, linking individuals through mentorship, recognition, and access to resources, as Granovetter describes. A well-placed connection can elevate an overlooked talent, pushing them forward in the ensemble. It's a bit like how social mobility enables individuals to rise through institutional ranks, as Bourdieu noted back in 1984. Still, barriers remain, as structural gatekeeping ensures that only a select few actually ascend. In this orchestra of society, every note carries meaning, and every silence speaks volumes. Power dictates the arrangement, but change really stems from dissonance, the sharp, disruptive sound that forces a shift in composition. What happens when the melody is challenged? What happens when the voices long suppressed finally rise? From governments to grassroots movements, power dynamics dictate relationships and access. This section explores how social groups shape identity, how social networks influence behavior, and how authority structures interactions. Group topic: networks and influence in society. Judith Pamela Butler is an American feminist philosopher and gender studies scholar whose work has influenced political philosophy, ethics, and the fields of third-wave feminism, queer theory, and literary theory. Born in 1956 in Cleveland, Ohio, Butler has been influenced by thinkers like Michel Foucault, Jacques Derrida, and Hannah Arendt. Butler has one child and a partner, Wendy Brown. She studied at Bennington College and Yale University, with Morris Natanson as her doctoral advisor. So let's think about these guiding questions for a moment. How does gender influence social roles? And how do race and ethnicity affect social status? And, how do they influence social mobility? Gender is, a social construct that defines roles, behaviors, and expectations associated with masculinity and femininity. Judith Butler, for example, argues that gender is performative, meaning it's shaped by repeated social behaviors rather than any inherent traits. That's from Butler, 2006. Race is basically a classification system based on physical characteristics, like skin color, and it's often used to structure social hierarchies. Sociologists point out that race is socially constructed, which means its significance is shaped by historical and cultural contexts, rather than biological differences. That's according to Omi and Wynant, 1994. Ethnicity is a category based on shared cultural traits like language, traditions, and ancestry. Unlike race, ethnicity is really rooted in cultural identity rather than physical attributes, and it shapes group belonging and social interactions, according to Cornell and Hartman in 2007. Social class is, a system of stratification based on economic status, occupation, and access to resources. Karl Marx saw social class as a determinant of power, arguing that economic structures shape societal divisions, as he wrote back in 1867. Social mobility refers to the movement of individuals or groups within a social hierarchy, and it's influenced by factors like education, wealth, and systemic barriers. Pierre Bourdieu explored how social mobility is constrained by both cultural and economic capital, which reinforces existing inequalities, as he described in 1984. Barry Jenkins' Moonlight, released in 2016, is a profound exploration of identity, following Chiron, a young black man, through 3 pivotal stages of his life. The film really dissects the intersection of gender, race, ethnicity, social class, and social mobility, revealing how, societal expectations shape personal identity. The hero's journey here is, deeply tied to gender, particularly the rigid expectations of masculinity within his community. From childhood, he is pressured to conform to traditional notions of strength and dominance, yet his quiet, introspective nature challenges these norms. His struggle with self-expression and vulnerability honestly highlights the tension between gender identity and societal expectations. As a black man, Chiron navigates the complexities of race and ethnicity, facing systemic barriers that, dictate his opportunities and interactions. His experiences reflect the broader struggles of black identity in America, where racial stereotypes and societal prejudices really shape his path. The film's cinematography, especially its use of color and lighting, emphasizes the nuances of blackness, reinforcing the idea that identity is fluid rather than fixed. So, Chiron's upbringing in a low-income neighborhood really underscores the impact of social class on personal development. His mother's addiction and financial instability, creates an environment where survival just takes precedence over self-discovery. The contrast between his childhood struggles and the wealthier spaces he later encounters, it really highlights the disparities in access to stability and opportunity. As Chiron transitions into adulthood, his ability to achieve social mobility is, honestly, shaped by his circumstances. In his final stage, he adopts a hardened persona, kind of mirroring the hypermasculine figures he once feared. This transformation, I think, raises some critical questions about whether mobility requires assimilation, or if true self-acceptance can actually exist within societal constraints. Ultimately, Moonlight dismantles traditional narratives of identity, illustrating how gender, race, ethnicity, social class, and social mobility intersect to shape individual experiences. Gender shapes social roles by establishing expectations for behavior, status, and labor distribution, often reinforcing societal hierarchies and access to power, as Butler discussed back in 2006. These roles, evolve across cultures and historical periods, reflecting shifting norms and institutional constraints. Race and ethnicity influence social status by dictating access to resources, opportunities, and representation, reinforcing systemic inequalities within institutions, as Omi and Wynant argued in 1994. These classifications, though socially constructed, really do shape lived experiences and collective identity. Social mobility is influenced by economic structures, education, and systemic barriers, determining an individual's ability to ascend social hierarchies, as Bourdieu highlighted in 1984. Factors such as wealth, network access, and institutional gatekeeping. Well, they really do dictate upward or downward movement within stratified societies.